to the ABC Podcast.
Always be cool.
The show where your hosts, DC and BK, showcase your local business and real estate pros going gangbusters in leadership, community involvement, and just being cool.
Here are your hosts, serial entrepreneurs, mortgage experts at Summit Lending, and partners in crime, Darren Copeland and Bobby Kerr.
All right, everybody. It's the Always Be Cool podcast, hanging out with your hosts, Bobby Kerr, Darren Copeland.
What's up, everybody?
Hanging out at the Summit Lending Studios. We are super excited today. We have one of our good friends, a national mortgage trainer, best-selling author, speaker, and coach, Miss Cindy Ertman.
Right on. Here we go. So CEO and founder of The Defining Difference. It's a success-based coaching and training company devoted to helping people master the power of intentional choice. Named one of the top 100 most influential mortgage executives in America by Mortgage Executive Magazine for 5 years in a row. She has more than a decade of experience and was a top 100 mortgage loan originator in the U.S. So Bobby,
That's
just
incredible.
An amazing producer for 10 years in the top 1%. Her goal is to help clients get more out of life by making powerful, intentional choices to propel their income. Also featured in a new film, The Evolution of Success, which charts the lives of some of the most successful people around the world. All around awesome lady, Cindy Ertman. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I am doing awesome, and it's so great to be with you guys.
We're so happy to have you.
It's really fun to do a show with two people that you already know and love, right? You guys are fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, it definitely makes it. Sorry, it definitely makes it a little easier whenever you're talking with somebody for 30 or 60 minutes when you have got a little bit of a background.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So,
it's really fun to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, absolutely. No, this is fantastic. And so we kind of wanted to start off today, Cindy, because you've just had such an amazing career in the mortgage industry and a lot of the tips and goals that people can take all across different platforms. They don't even have to be in the mortgage world. So, tell us a little bit about, there might be some listeners on this podcast that maybe are not familiar, but tell us kind of how you got started in the ranks of the mortgage business and how you came up through your success.
Absolutely. Well, nobody, as you guys know, nobody goes into mortgage by design, typically, right?
Exactly.
We don't go to college, you go, oh, I want to be a loan rep. That's kind of not how it works for mortgage professionals. So I actually wanted to go into marketing. That was my mission. I really wanted to be a marketing director for a great company. But I finished my classes a semester early in college. And so I didn't have really anything to do. I took one class my last semester on journalism, and I decided to get my real estate license just because. And I got a job as a kind of like a copywriter right out of college. And it was the most boring job one could, they put me in a back room. It was a dark room. I wasn't around people. And I realized in 2 months, I'm like, you cannot put Cindy Ertman in a dark room at the back of the space. Like that is,
right.
I realized first and foremost, I got to be with people. So I started thinking about real estate because I had gotten my license and did some research and decided to go to work as a realtor. And I did that for the first 3 years of my career. And then I got a knock on the door by this real estate development company because I had applied with them as a marketing director for them. And they wanted me to work their new housing track. And this was up in Stockton, California. I went to University of the Pacific. So I said, I cannot work in a housing track again by myself, sitting out in the boondocks. I said, but when you can hire me as a full-blown marketing director, I'll make the move. And so I was a realtor for 3 years. They finally knocked on my door and said, we want to hire you as our marketing director. I said, great, signed on the dotted line. And then they stuck me in their new housing track. And I was absolutely miserable.
Yep.
So a year in, I resigned. And the president said, you can't leave. We can't lose you. And he said, what do you want to do? And by this time, they had joined forces with Gibraltar Savings Loan out of Beverly Hills, and they had become known as Gibraltar Community Builders and quickly became the number one apartment developer in the state of California. Wow. So I said, when he goes, and I'm from Southern California, and honestly, no offense to the Northern Californiites, but I wanted to get back in Southern California. I like the weather better. I wanted to live closer to the beach. And so when they asked me what I wanted to do, I said, I want to be in land acquisition in Southern California. And he goes, well, you don't know anything about land acquisition. I said, I know, but I'll teach myself. So he just said, okay, get on a plane on Friday, get on a plane next week. So I did. And literally, like from scratch, I just called everybody I knew. I was from Southern California. My dad was mayor of my town. He knew a bunch of people.
That's cool.
I just started calling people. And I was in land acquisition and real estate development for 5 years and had an unbelievable job. I mean, it prepared me for mortgage because talk about having to fake it till you make it. Like, I was having to present to city councils with 300 angry homeowners fighting our apartment developers. I mean, it tapped me for a kid like more than I could have ever been tapped. So it was like totally prepared me for the difficulties of the mortgage industry. Right. But I grew so much in those 5 years. I remember sitting, no joke, sitting in the White House, presenting to the Secretary of Housing, who was a real estate developer in Southern California. And my business partner and I went to the White House and, presented this project to him sitting in the White House. It's one of those moments.
Like the White House?
Like not like a White House, but the White House.
The White House.
Wow.
And pinching yourself going, what am I doing here? And not trying to figure out when I can open my mouth and not so I don't sound, but just those kinds of things tap me on every level. And this sounds so silly when I think back on it, but we were at 1800 Avenue of the Stars in Century City. They did eventually move me to Southern California. They moved their hub down here and they would have a helicopter pick me up on the top of the building and fly me to our projects. And I thought that was just kind of normal.
Have you ever been picked up here at work by a helicopter?
Not in the last 24 hours, I haven't.
Anyway, long story short, one day I walked into work and I said, hey, Corey, I bought a house. And these are the days you could walk in with your verification of employment to your boss. Like they didn't have to mail them out in secret. You could just walk in and have them sign it. And I walked in with my verification of employment. He said, you better sit down because the federal government is shutting down the S&L industry. And on Monday, we're going to have a padlock on the door and we're closing.
Wow.
And I was just like, I'd just gone into escrow on a house. I had not told him I was pregnant with my first child. I was petrified. And I did the smart thing. In like 15 minutes, because they were going to have 24 hours to be padlocked, I negotiated a 6-month severance package.
Nice.
Had him write me a check. I said, here, fill out my verification of employment. I'll try to close quick. I ran out the door and had my baby and stayed home for a few months because I had a severance. And then I'm like, what do I do? I didn't want to go back into development because I was traveling all the time. And I knew I was going to have a new baby. And a girlfriend of mine said, I think you should look into the mortgage industry. It's like the best kept secret for women. And I thought, oh, gosh, I've been an executive vice president and I was like Miss Mucky Muck in like 25. And she intrigued me. So I started researching the mortgage industry and I found the number one lender by volume in Southern California was CalFed Savings and Loan in Brentwood, California. And I knocked on their door and begged and pleaded and voila, they hired me. And it was quite a journey to start this from scratch and to build something with no training. Like, I think I had like a weeks of training. And because they were a bank, it's different than most people start today. They were a bank and we had closed territories. I could only call on 4 real estate offices. That was it.
Okay. And,
the thing that I learned is that failure wasn't an option for me. Like I went, from a serious salary to a like all commission position being mortgage lender. But I had to figure it out. And I didn't know one soul in LA because I had just moved there. And so it was really tough, but I had to get incredibly creative. And I will share a story that I think it's impactful and it's got some lessons. My very first day, and this story is true. Every detail of the story is true, but it seems like it couldn't possibly be because it kind of reminded me of watching a bad movie. I decided they gave me a list of the top 20 realtors, 5 of each of these 4 offices. And I don't even know how to use my HP 12C to calculate a payment yet. Like, I don't know anything.
That's amazing.
They had me this little script and said, here's the top 20. So what do? I decided to start with number one. Well, let's just start at the top, right? And you can imagine, like, seriously, Darren, like, you don't call the number one, realtor in your market when you don't have any experience, right?
Typically, you want to lead up to that, maybe practice a little bit, right?
You think
Yeah.
maybe start at the bottom and work up.
Right.
I was that naive. I was so young. Anyway, long story short, I call this guy. I'm not going to say his name because I don't know if he's still floating out there. And in the middle of my script, I was reading the script and he hung up on me. And I was from a little town, where it was all family and very, like, people were kind, and I wasn't from the big city of LA.
No one would ever hang up on you from your town.
No. And so, look, I get it, but I started to cry, like, for real. Like, it's like, what did I sign up for here? And so I got myself together, and then I got in my car and I drove to his office. And I walked in the front door and I told the receptionist that we got disconnected on our call. So I thought I would just pop in to see if he was available to finish our conversation. And he came walking out and he started laughing because clearly he knew he hung up on me. So I think he thought it was a little ballsy or brave that I would actually drive to his office. So he started laughing. Right. And he's like, "You're a loan rep?" And I said, "Yes." He goes, "Let's go to lunch." So we get in his car and he takes me to Ivy at the Shore in Santa Monica in his Mercedes. I don't know this guy from Adam. I know nothing about him. And we're at lunch and he tells me that he's sleeping with his title rep and he takes kickbacks from his lender. This is a true story. Like, it's exactly what he said.
Oh my gosh.
And first of all, like, I'm like, am I with this, like, lunatic at lunch? Like, he's the number one producer. And I started to laugh and I just said, well, I go, you know what? I said, I'm never going to sleep with you because I'm happily married. And I'm never going to give you a kickback because I'm not going to lose my license for anybody. But I said, if you ever decide to do business the right way, give me a call. So 2 weeks later, he called me and he said, all right, I'll give you the first deal because you were tenacious, but you better be dang good after that.
Right.
And so he asked me to come to an open house on a Sunday. He sold the house at the open house and I didn't know how to calculate the payment, but I got my very first deal. I learned by fire. He was a big listing agent. He started writing me into his transactions and it really gave me my start. But had I just, had I hung up from that call and not done what I did, which was get up and drive to his office, I would have lost that opportunity forever. But because I did that and I stuck to my value system, I made a lot of money with that guy over the next, and then 3 years in, I fired him because he was such a pain in the ass. But the reality is it helped get my start. So the one thing that I've always had is that never give up, just drive persistence at everything you do, because I have so many stories in my career of wins from persistence.
Well, and I think you bring up so many great points there, Cindy, especially now when a lot of people might be struggling in the business. But literally, you made a choice in that moment after you got yourself together that turning point right there changed the course of your mortgage career at the time, and you didn't even know it, right?
No.
And what a brilliant idea to actually show up and, hey, sorry, we got disconnected. And because I'm guessing we don't want to date any of ourselves here, but that might have been before cell phones, right? So, I mean, that is just a great lesson.
100%.
We always talk about be relentless, right?
Yep.
That's a perfect analogy story of be relentless and do not take no for an answer.
Well, and the silly thing is, okay, so that was one realtor, right? But like now I could actually say I was working with one person and he happened to be the number one guy. So, I mean, clearly, anyway, but then I came up with this other idea. I'm like, this is embarrassing, but I had to figure out how to get in front of people. And when their office, you couldn't get past the receptionist. I mean, you couldn't walk through the office. They weren't going to invite me to sales meetings or any of that stuff. They didn't even know me. So these were the days of hard paper flyers, right, on our programs. And I came up with this idea. There was this back parking lot behind this real estate office, and that's where all the realtors parked. And they went in and out of the back door, not the front door. So I learned I could pull into this parking space, and I'd wait to get a space. I would adjust my rear view mirror, and I would to the back door. And the minute somebody would open the back door, I would jump out of my car and literally almost bump into them with my flyers. And I said, hey, I'm Cindy Ertman. Don't I know you?
Yeah.
And they'd be like, I don't think so. And I'd be like, well, you look kind of familiar. I'm here to meet with Ray Keller. Ray and I have a deal going. And I said, hey, by the way, I got this awesome new program. Let me give you the flyer just in case it would help any of your clients. Give me a call. Do you have a card on you by any chance? Because I'd love to just learn a little bit more about you. And so they'd usually fumble and give me a card. And I said, well, it's so great to meet you. If I can help you, please let me know. And check out the flyer, by the way. And then I'd go back to my office. So I would do this for 3 or 4 hours, bumping into realtors in the parking lot. And then I would take their cards and I would go back to my office and I put together a campaign and I'd write them a handwritten thank you note. So great to meet you in the parking lot today. And by the way, if you need any help with open houses, I'd love to put flyers together for you. And then I started the strip campaign. During my 6-week campaign, it started then.
With that
was how I really developed it. Was I'd put together the strip campaign, and then eventually I'd ask for a meeting, and that's how I got my start as a mortgage lender.
There's so many lessons in there about not only failure not being an option, but creative ways of building relationships, right, and finding referral partners that are still transferable to today. It doesn't matter if this was 30 years ago. To the lesson of none of that matters if there's not follow-up and if there's not sincerity and genuine, a relationship, not a transaction. So everything through the creativity of meeting them in the parking lot to the having a flyer ready to go to following up with a thank you card, all of these things are still necessary.
Building relationships.
Building relationships is still necessary today. We often talk about the art form of a handwritten note, right? And Michael Mayer is a good friend of ours, and he's, literally written the book on.
Master. I've been the recipient of his, knives and his cards, and I still remember.
And it's the same thing that it doesn't matter when this was. The power of a handwritten note, whether it's to someone in your family or a friend or a team member or a referral partner or a client, this stuff works.
It's all relationship building, right? And the things you can always think about, people sending you something, a handwritten note or whatever it is. Technology changes over time, but at the end of the day, we always say, whether you're a loan officer, a real estate agent, insurance, the people that has the most good, viable relationships, those are the ones who win at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And 100%. Tim Rahim used to always say, and he was the one that owned Loan Toolbox for many years, and Tim's been a good friend. I was on the faculty there for 17 years. And Tim would always say, the one with the most friends wins, period.
Yep. That's true.
You've said that a lot.
We say that a lot. I
was just leading this training with 100 loan officers and realtors. And I said, look, mortgage is a vehicle, right? But we're all in the relationship business. And really, if you're in any business, in any sort of sales capacity, the success comes from the relationship development skills. And look, I teach on the mortgage front hundreds of tactical strategies to build and grow relationship and to get loans. But the reality is, it is really working on ourselves and really learning relationship development strategy and working on our communication because, I've had people that I've coached say, well, I don't speak Cindy. And I'm like, well, I didn't speak Cindy for years. I had to train Cindy to speak this way. One of the questions somebody asked me this morning, he was a branch manager up in Seattle. And he said, how did you ask like a realtor for their business? Because a lot of times we just don't ask. And I'm not a hard sell salesperson. I'm a relationship person. So I created strategies that were more soft sell. So one of the things I was talking to this group about this morning is, and really in any industry, you've got to be really clear on what your 3 core strengths are. Like as a human, like what are your 3 greatest strengths? So in the mortgage business, what are the three greatest strengths that are in the context of how do they bring value to your realtor partners, right? And your client base. And so getting really clear what those strengths are. And you'd be amazed in coaching how many times I ask someone what their three greatest strengths are. And I just get this, a blank stare. They have no idea what their three core strengths are. And then also really getting clear on the three core strengths of your business and your company. Because if you're not really clear, like what your special sauce is and what sets you apart, you can't put together a really clear message that's going to be powerful for the people that you're interacting with. And I learned that by getting clear on my strengths for my company and clear on my personal strengths, that I could weave those into every conversation. If I was meeting you as a new realtor, I could just say, you know what, Darren, if we have, one of the things I love, if we were to have the opportunity to work together, one of the things I love is one of my greatest strengths is communication. And the way we display that to our realtor partners is, we have a 10-point milestone communication plan. You're going to hear from us every single milestone of that loan and every Tuesday. You, the listing agents and the buyer, are never going to have to call us for status because we have a communication system and a plan that you're going to be informed every step of the way. And our trusted referral partners love that about my team. So, you can just weave it into every conversation. And then you can take another strength a little bit later and just go, gosh, if we have the opportunity to work together, Darren, one of the things I'd love to share with you is X, Y, and Z. Or one of my favorite things to do with my referral partners is help them build a marketing plan because I really want you to succeed. I want you to be successful. And I pour into my realtor partners. I form partnership with people that I know, like, and trust. And then people are like, then they want to know what my marketing plan is, right? Because now they're curious.
Right.
So that's how I would weave in, not just saying, hey, I want to get your next deal, but look, if we have the opportunity to work together, I'm going to pour into you and create value for you and your business and help you be more successful. And that was kind of at the core of what helped me build to, $230 million in mortgage production on my biggest year.
Well, and that's amazing because it goes back, if you think about it, Cindy, I have a very similar story, getting into the mortgage business, not knowing anything about the business. And when we got in, there was no training, right? It's nothing against, the large banks or anything, but it's more of, hey, go out there and get business. But they were teaching you more about, hey, what type of programs there were and, just basic blocking and tackling. There was no coaching as far as, hey, this is how you go out and build relationships, make friends so you can, be a top producer for years and years and years. And I believe it was about 8 or 9 months when I first got into the mortgage industry. It was 2003 and didn't know anything. Heck, and this is no joke, Cindy. For the first year, I didn't even really know what a purchase was because it was so refi heavy at the time. And I was just refinancing all my friends, family, and buddies because they were just dropping out of the sky. We did some direct mail. But I remember one time I got a contract, a real estate contract. I'm like, what in the heck is this thing? So I took it to my processor and she's like, yeah, Darren,
this is a purchase.
This is a purchase contract. All right. And this is what you do. And I'm like, oh, okay, but yeah, but within that first year, and we'll talk some more about coaching here. But I knew just growing up, and Bobby's very similar. We were athletes as very young kids, and high school and college. But I knew I needed a coach, right? I knew I had to get into coaching. I didn't have the money for it at the time,
right?
But
nobody does.
No one does. But I knew that if I signed up for coaching, that I knew I could get a few more deals, whether it's a month, quarterly, yearly, whatever that was. But I knew that coaching would end up being free. We always talking about making things free and return on investment. But, I think it's so critical, again, no matter what industry that people are in, that you have to have a coach that is helping you rise up to the next level. We always talk about, we're big Kansas City Chiefs fans here, right? So we love Patrick.
Really? I couldn't tell.
I know, right? Total shock. But Patrick Mahomes has a quarterbacks coach. he has his head coach in Andy Reid, who's probably one of the best coaches for quarterbacks in the league, and probably one of the reasons why he's very successful. But, kind of talk about, your thoughts on the coaching. Obviously, with your platform, it's such a big deal, but I mean, it's so mission critical for people to get involved in coaching if they truly want to take their careers to the next level.
Well, there's no question in my mind. And same as you, I had a coach early on, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm raising 3 little kids and trying to make a mortgage payment. And there's no way I could afford to hire a coach. But I had a lot of great direction from very talented people around me that just said, you can't afford not to have a coach. If you're going to take it to the next level, you've got to have accountability. You've got to have somebody that can help you think bigger, that can give you a playbook for how to get to the next level. And I became a believer very early on because I started to see what happened when I invested in myself. So I had coaches along the way I had coaches that I could coach, but they're like, okay, that wasn't the right choice. So over the years, I got very picky about the coach that I coached with because I really wanted it to be people who had been in my shoes, people that had already created a true level of success, that were tried and true success stories. So that became a really big factor for who I would coach with. And I would recommend that to anybody in any industry. Find somebody that's come before you that's already built what you want to create and do what they did. Yep. Because the reality is, success definitely leaves clues, and we don't have to start from scratch. We can take direction from somebody that's already created success and kind of make it our own. But I remember early on, I had become a member of Loan Toolbox, which was owned by Tim Brahim, and Tim became a very good friend of mine, and he was definitely a mentor and is a good friend till this day. But he had asked me to join the faculty of Loan Toolbox. So for 17 years, I was on the faculty of Loan Toolbox, coaching, teaching, training, speaking nationally, for zero money. I did it just as a give back to the industry because the industry had been so good to me. And candidly, a lot of leaders had poured into me and shared their wisdom. And I was, it's so amazing to teach people something. And then I learned ways to teach more effectively and ways to chunk it down so it wasn't so complicated, and realizing that strategies for business success have to be simple, because if they're not simple, nobody will do it, right? Correct. So learning to teach from a very just step-by-step process, and not just leading people to water, but teaching them how to drink. So for me, I have had a coach, feels like almost my whole life, but certainly since the beginning of my business career. And now that I'm running a coaching company, I had this amazing career, and I just feel so blessed. And one thing for the women that are listening to this call, because one of the things I see a lot of women sometimes playing smaller than they need to play. And, a lot of women really are incredible leaders. They want to play a bigger role in their business. And I'm really encouraging women to step to the plate, because we need more female leadership, particularly in the mortgage industry, but I think in most industries. But one of the things is I started realizing that my passion had switched from leading a branch, and I was leading a region at the time. I was on the executive management team of the 12th largest mortgage bank in America, was learning tremendous leadership strategies. But I realized that I was spending my days just pouring into originators and to branch managers and helping make them more successful. And I had this little vision. Well, it turned out to be a big vision, but at the time started small, but I did my life and vision plan one year, and I realized it wasn't about being a top producer anymore or building the biggest branch. It was about building a training company from scratch. And I ultimately took a big leap because I had the little voice that just said, I didn't want to be on my deathbed looking back going, oh my gosh, I wish I had done this. So I just said, if not now, when? And I just had a leap of faith. And I said, if I take all the success principles that I poured into my loan origination business, and I use the same strategies of taking steps, creating a goal plan, and perseverance, and if I get knocked down, get back up and do it again the next day and keep taking steps, I know I can build a successful coaching and training company. So here we are 10 years later, and I built the Defining Difference with the help of an incredible team and people that poured their life into helping us build and grow. And now I get to wake up every day and help people grow. And it's the most satisfied and fulfilling thing I've ever done. And, it's why I want people to set goals around their dreams and their passion and their purpose, and not having to know how they're going to come to fruition. Because if I had thought about the how, I would have never done what I did.
Exactly.
So, Cindy, I want to go back to something you said in the very beginning in the intro, but this was a perfect segue. You said that you thought that the mortgage industry was the best kept secret for women when you were getting into it. Number one, do you still feel that way? Number two, why do you feel that way?
I do. I think it's an amazing business. I think the reason, to your point, Darren, about coaching, and Bobby, your question is so important, because the reality is it can also be the most consuming business anyone could possibly get into.
Yep.
It can be a 7-day a week, you're never done, right? I mean, there's so many, and now that there's just a lot more complexity to it in today's world. And technology has been a great blessing, and also a great curse on many levels. Social media, great blessing, great curse, because we have to do all of it, right? We have to have systems and processes. We have to have a marketing platform. We have to have amazing relationship development skills. We've got to have a CRM system. We've got to stay in touch with our past clients. There's so much. But the key is we can control a lot of how we spend our time with creating systems and processes, because most people, when they get into it, it's very hodgepodge, and they might be successful by accident. But you get to a place where people's business is going like this. They're going and getting it, and then they come back, and then they're in their file processing all the paperwork, and then they come up and they have no business. They have to go back to the field. And so the key is creating systems and processes, using technology to help support that, and creating a team ultimately that allow you to focus on income and relational activities. So it's a lot of where I spend my time as a coach, of helping people look at their system and their process, or usually lack of, helping them start to identify the steps of the process that are going to make it replicatable. Because I could have never gotten to over 200 million in personal production without a replicatable system and a process. And we were like a well-oiled machine. And I also, Bobby, I had a lot of non-negotiables. I was a mom of 3 kids, and I wanted to be a great mom. I did work a lot, but my kids would tell you, I was home by 6:30. I ate dinner with my family every single night. That was a non-negotiable. And when I realized, even though I love to cook, I didn't have the time to come home and prepare a 3-course meal with for my family, I hired a nanny to do it for me. And because of her, she still works for me today. But because of her, I taught her how to shop. I taught her how to cook my 10 favorite dishes, taught her how to set the table. And most people don't train people to be the support that they need in their life. So when I'm working with women and mothers, and a lot of dads as well, I really help them create systems around when people say, well, I can't do that because. I'm like, well, there's another solution. You might have to write a check, but there's a lot of ways to create a sustainable business and have a great family too.
Absolutely.
And so,
well, and just like one of our good friends in our group, Cindy, just write the check, right? Just write the check and make it happen. Yeah.
Write the check.
Just write the check. So talking about the coaching, I'm sure you come up against some resistance of people looking like they know they need the coaching, but, mentally they're like, oh my gosh, it's going to be this commitment. So what would you say to kind of help people get over that? We call it the fear bridge. What would you say to them to get over the fear bridge, just to believe in themselves and get into coaching so they can, improve their lives on the other end?
It's such a good question, because there's so many. I mean, I should start making a list, right, of all the resistance conversations and the reasons people say no. I mean, the number one reason is I just don't have the financial resources to pay for this. So that's number one, is don't have the money. Number two is don't have the time. It's going to take too much time. I'm too busy at work, and I've got kids and all this. I just don't have the time. And I think there is a group of people, and I can always identify which ones are going to be, that really don't believe they're coachable. They're the know-it-all group. They already know everything.
Got you. Yep.
I already know it. Look, I've worked with 3 or 4 coaches. I could coach them, like people who just know it all. I call them the uncoachables that need to learn to be coached.
That comes back to the Dr. Phil. How's that working out for you?
Well, they're calling it. Look, the funny thing is, too, a lot of times these people are reaching out to me, and yes, maybe off an ad or an email or whatever, but they're the one push the button for the strategy call, asking for the meeting, and then they're doing nothing but talking themselves out of it. And the reality is, coaching is always worth the investment. And yes, are there some stories of people making bad coaching decisions? And you do, it's a relationship. So whether someone coaches with me or with someone else, I always say, look, you've got to have a relationship with your coach because it's a relationship business, because coaching is multidimensional. I mean, we're business coaches, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of personal life that has a lot to do with our business life. So we really do get into the whole person. It's really, we're coaching the whole person. It's not just business strategy. We also get into how are you spending your time? How are you using focus time? And a lot of people's lives are out of sync with their family because they put themselves last. Their health is deteriorated. They're drinking too much at night. They're not working out. They've gained weight, right? They work too much. They've lost relationships with their kids and their spouses. And so we've got to kind of coach the whole person, but getting them over to the other hump of understanding that it is so true. They're not just empty the words. The reason people have said for years, and Tony Robbins says it all the time, the best investment you will ever make is the investment you make in yourself. But the reality is nobody can make you great. Nobody. Everyone thinks like, let's take the magic pill. We're going to be great. It's like, no, we got to make ourselves great. And if you really want to grow, you've got to get accountability. You've got to have somebody that can help you think bigger than you think for yourself. You have to somebody that can help you be confident in a very uncomfortable situation to make those calls and use that script. You've got to get somebody that when you fall off and you fall off your commitments to get you back on the horse and to, recommit again or to, come up with some new agreements about what you want to do. But the most beautiful thing is to get to the, end or into a coaching arrangement. And then for us to get the emails that are just like, oh my gosh, you've changed my life.
The aha moment.
It's like we just started a new client. I was coaching with one of my coaches, and I handpicked the coach for him. And he had very specific, he's been in business almost 30 years. He had very specific requirements. And I had him meet the coach, but I said, look, you'd be crazy not to coach with her. She is amazing. Like, she's absolutely incredible. She's got experience in what you need. And that's a lot of how we pick our coaches. But like in the second call, the guy's sending me an email saying, oh my gosh, she pushed me to make a call that I hadn't been willing to make because it was a huge account. I was going after this big corporate account. Anyway, she pushed me she gave me the confidence to make the call. She helped me with the scripting. I made the call, I got the meeting, and I secured an account with 1,100 people that'll probably drive 25 loans a month. And he is so excited, he could hardly stand it. But he would have never done that without a coach.
Yep, that's amazing.
And this is what people don't understand. It's like, it's this far away, but you got to take that next step, right? You got to make that next call to get. And like we talk about all the time, and certainly in sports, like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right?
Exactly.
Yep. We all need that accountability. It doesn't matter what part of our life. If you're overweight, you need to be hanging out with and talking with healthier people. If you're a loan originator and you're doing 1-2 loans a month and you want to do 4 or 5, then you need to surround yourself with those people that have those systems and those skills in place to do that.
Right.
Exactly. If you are bad with money, you need to be hanging out with fiscally responsible people. And
you are. And what the thing about money, what you just said, Bobby, and I think it's something we don't talk about enough. It's like mortgage is interesting because people make a lot of money in mortgage and real estate, right? I mean, it's a very lucrative profession if you're doing it right. It can be, not for all, but it can be a very lucrative profession without question. But then we don't talk about how do you take care of the money? How do you save the money? How do you pay yourself first? How do you protect yourself against markets like 2022 where interest rates go up and the housing market comes to a screeching halt, and then you watch people like lose homes and lose cars, and because they never think the faucet's going to turn off. And I've learned in our business, it turns on in like a day and it turns off in like a day. It's crazy how fast it shifts. And you guys interview so many major athletes, and it's incredible, but all those athletes have professional coaches because they wouldn't be at the level of excellence they are without that repetition, the learning to get back up after you fail, having to get through the mindset, because it happens to all of us, right?
Well, and the athletes portion is interesting because every athlete that we've spoken with, no matter how much money they made in their career while they were playing, they say to us, I wish I had had a life coach or a financial coach to help me be responsible with those things. So it doesn't matter if you're doing mortgages or selling real estate or if you're a professional athlete, we can all earn money, right? We can all work and earn money. But if we aren't stewards in a responsible manner with that money to help people or to make sure that we're setting ourselves up for success later on in life, because that faucet is going to turn off. It's not a matter of when, or it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when,
100%.
right? Then we need to have people in our circle that influence us in a positive manner to say, all right, hey, this is a really good time right now, but make sure that you're taking care of your future self. We always joke like, future Bobby is helping, or present Bobby's helping future Bobby right now by doing X, Y, Z. And so I think it's important to have that frame of mind no matter what we're doing.
Well, and it's just the the importance of having the coach, and what you said, Cindy, is having conversations with people that is taking them to another level, helping them think bigger, right? And I know you have a really good knack of, like, let's say if you're coaching someone and their life goal is to have a second home in Arizona, and then you say basically put your big boy pants on and just go do it, right? So, which was one of the best stories that I have, and literally one of the best things that I've ever done in my life, and it just tapped a passion. But again, even for me at that time, you put these self-limitations on yourself of, oh, maybe I'm just being too conservative or whatever, but now it turns out to be a great investment. And again, and it's not just that example, it's across the board. It can be personal, financial, relationship-wise. So the coaching is just a non-negotiable for people who want to, really have an amazing career. And also, I think another one of the things that you have in your program is you have an amazing goal planning worksheet. So much, in fact, as I know twice a year I either go to a local resort or go out of town, and I just have some goal planning for myself. And that was kudos to you, your idea on doing that.
Which has bled into my life because I do the same thing now because he's coached me because you've coached him on that.
Exactly. So literally next week, Cindy, we've changed it up, not too much, but so we meet with our entire staff, whether they're originators, support people, even a receptionist, who, if someone is on the team, we're literally meeting with them next week to go through all their goal planning goals. So, would you mind touching base on, some of the goal planning things that you have with your coaching program?
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I'm a huge fan around goal planning, but doing it a certain way, because goals are great. And, there was a study done many years ago, an MBA study at Harvard, that shared that 83% of the population have no goals. And, when you think about that, it's actually very sad to me that there's so many people that just go to work and come home and go to work, and so many people that are in jobs that they are not passionate about. So it was one of the things I was most grateful for, is having a career that I was been so passionate about, where we could help so many people. But and then about 14% of the population actually has goals, but they reside right here. Like, they think about their goals and they've got some goals, but they haven't transferred them from pen to paper. And then 3% of the population statistically has an actual written goal plan. And that's the key, right? Because they tracked all these people over 10 years, and that 3% was earning 10 times the income level 10 years later, because they physically wrote their goals down. And when we work with our clients on goal planning, I don't want to just work with them on business goals. Obviously, when we're coaching people, we are focused a lot on business because we want to help them build really successful mortgage practices. But at the end of the day, more importantly, I want to coach people around creating a really fulfilling life. So we're looking at like the key overarching areas that we're looking at for goal planning. And I recommend you come up with 3 key goals in these key areas of your life and at least 3 action steps per goal, because you've got to have very specific action steps to bring the goal to reality. And so obviously starting with your career and your work goals, your business goals, what are 3 key overarching stretch goals that you want to bring into your universe, that you want to bring into your life, that you want to bring to fruition over the next 90 days in your business? And if you're in the mortgage business, I always say, because a lot of people do not have a great database or CRM management system. It's a common conversation. And you guys, I talked to you about this, right, Darren, ages ago, because you really were looking to create one. And a lot of people have one they don't use. They don't know how to use it. Their companies don't have great systems. So I'm like, go get your own. They're not that expensive. But the reality is I got beat over the head from almost like my first day in mortgage to have a CRM and a database. And it was the smartest thing I ever did, but only because I got forced into it. And then, of course, you got to use it, right? I always say the best one to have is the one you'll actually use. But staying in touch with our past clients is probably, no matter, and for realtors too, the number one thing that we need to do is to communicate with our past clients, because stats show that they may have a great experience with you. They may have absolutely loved you, but a year from now, they are not going to remember your name.
That's true.
So we've got to be in front of our clients. So if you do not have a strong, utilizable database, I know you guys use Be in Touch. I have a lot of clients using that because it's simple, it's cost effective, and they have decent customer service. A lot of people use Jungo, but they got to pay big professionals to build it out. So it doesn't matter what you have, but you do need one to stay in touch. Because I could write an email to my past client database. I wrote it every first of the month. It was in my calendar. It was a system and a process.
Yep.
And I sent an email on the first of the month to my past clients database. And when I left my career, I had 4,500 past mortgage clients, 4,500 closed loan clients. And within 10 minutes, I could write a simple email. It would say, hi, Bob, hi, Peter, hi, Mary, hi, right? And press the button. I could preview it and send it out. And then I sent hard mail postcards every quarter of my entire career. I got business 100% of the time that I communicated with my database. And then we had systems to call my database, and I could not make all those calls personally. I did have LOAs that helped support that. But we made sure that we were in touch with our database annually, at least one call.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I have a script that I use with my clients that is 6 questions to ask your past clients, because we want to create reasons why people, we want to show them ways to create wealth through real estate. We have more equity in property right now in America than ever in history. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't understand that they're sitting on a gold mine that they could use to build additional wealth, right, through real estate. So I'm a huge fan of that conversation. But I want you to come up with 3 business goals and a minimum of 3 action steps that are very specific. And I think starting with business is awesome. And then health and wellness, because I'm a huge proponent of this. If we are not healthy, none of it matters, right?
Right.
And I've coached so many people that get like a horrible health prognosis on something, and you realize none of it matters if we're not healthy. So I would encourage you all, we all need to up-level our health. And it doesn't mean you go from 0 to 10, but look, I gained my 15 pounds during COVID, and I did not feel good, and I was not happy with myself. Yeah. And 2 years ago, I was like, I got to get over myself. I actually hate working out. Like, I don't love it. I won't do it on my own. So I have to pay someone to coach me. I have to. I have had the same physical fitness trainer. She trains me virtually 2 times a week. And I've been going for 2 years now, and I will not miss it. And it's like a non-negotiable with myself. And when I decided to lose weight, so if you want to lose 10 pounds by the end of March, it's very doable. But what are you going to do? First you got to have a by when. And then what are you actually going to do? I cleared out all processed foods from my house. I got rid of everything with sugar in it in my entire house. And I don't even like sweets. But if it's there, I might partake. And I made a commitment that Monday through Thursday, or Monday through Friday, but sometimes not always Friday. A lot of times it was through Thursday that I cut down alcohol considerably. I ended up eating protein and vegetables 4 days a week. And then because I love food and I love to cook. And so I'm not going to take it away all the time, but you've got to, you get the point. Like you have to be specific in your action steps. And I'm always trying to up level that. I'm always trying to find, better ways to eat better food. And, for me, because I work a lot and I'm very focused during the week, I've started meal prepping on Sundays, and that helps tremendously. So I have lunches that I can eat in 30 minutes and have food ready to go. So I'm starting the meal prep on Sundays, and that's an intentional practice that's really helped me. And particularly if you're trying to eat healthy, if you've got healthy food choices already prepped, makes it easier, right? And then looking at your family and your relationships, because a lot of people have broken relationships in their life. And I kind of look at it too, do you have anyone in your life that's an energy drainer? And it could be a team member on our teams, business-wise. It could be a friend. It could be a family member. And we can't walk away from our family, but maybe we need to shift the amount of time we spend with them. Like, who are you spending your time with? Maybe you have a friend that's just a constant drain and complainer. Like, I do not have one person in my life like that. None.
We call them elevator people versus basement people.
There's no space in my world for that. I mean, I don't have a friendship in the planet like that. So, but clearing relationships, like if there's relationship challenges, I mean, Darren, last year in my Mortgage Mastermind Elite group, we had 2 men who were disconnected from their father for over 10 years. And both of those men made a commitment that even though they felt right, that right was overrated. And that they may only have limited time to repair those relationships. And so both of them ended up reaching out to their parents and began to rebuild relationships. Well, that's a life-altering decision for someone to do.
Would you rather be right or would you rather be happy?
Right.
100%. And sometimes I fully believe that I forgive people that maybe in a couple of instances in my life didn't really deserve to be forgiven. I don't forgive them because they ask me. I forgive them because it's healthy for me.
Yep.
And I am very good friends with my ex-husband. And that was probably one of the most difficult circumstances, going through a divorce after a long-term marriage ended. And I thought I'd be married forever, and I wasn't. But the reality is I made a choice to keep a family intact and to make decisions that were good for my children and my relationship with my ex. And it's been 10 years and we spend all of our holidays together and our energy's clear and it's simple and lovely. And I'm most grateful for the choices I made, because not everybody makes those choices, but my whole platform is around intentional choice. The defining difference is a choice. And we have the ability, if we don't like the way something is going in our life, to wake up tomorrow and make a new and intentional choice. And really, if we start to make better choices around our family and our relationship and our contribution, and our finances, how do we take better care of our money? Are we spending too much? Do we have too much credit card debt? Like really starting to look at those layers of our life and start to make small shifts in all of those areas. So we coach the person. So look at your goals around your financial, your personal finances. Because when I got a divorce, mine were not that great. And I didn't want to look in the mirror about it. It was like doing tax returns for me. It was
exactly.
I just wanted, but I really had to look at it when no one's going to make this better but me. And so I got intentional and I pulled all my little bits of money and I hired a financial planner and I started prioritizing my credit cards and paying one off and cutting it up and paying another one off and cutting it up. And I live my life today. I have one rule: simple. My life has to be simple from a financial perspective. So I have my financial planner and investments. I have my properties. I have 2 credit cards, one for business, one for personal. My life is simple. And I created that. Nobody did that for me. That was just making new intentional choices every month for a couple of years till I got to where I wanted to be. And so that's what goal planning really looks like for me, is those key areas of your life, getting intentional about making the shifts, making the course corrections, and we make incremental shifts. We don't need to go from a 2 to a 10.
Mm-hmm.
We need to incrementally grow from a 2 to a 3. And then I didn't go from 10 million a year to, 100 million in production. I went from 10 to 20 and got better practices, went to 30 and then went to 40. And then it starts to become incremental, right? Then you can go from 50 to 80, because now you've got more systems and more processes. And to me, goal planning, but there's one thing about goals, and I'll shut up here. The biggest thing about goals is they've got to be written down. You've got to get an accountability partner. Somebody in your life, somebody in your world has to be your accountability partner. You need to talk about your goals every single week, bring them back to the forefront, and you need to put energy around your goals. You have to tell someone out loud physically around your goals, because it's all energy. And if we start talking about our goals, our mind starts to look at them differently. And it is energetically, things start to happen and become, the law of attraction is true. And you may be very big skeptics around it, but it's about energy. And so the more we talk about the goals, the more likely they are to come to fruition.
We could do a whole show on goal planning and goal setting and the importance of it, because I've got so many thoughts going through my head, because we talk about this so often. All of our company goals are posted all over the walls of the offices so that everyone's rowing in the same direction. A goal without a plan is just a wish, right?
100%.
And
100%,
everything we're talking about with the intentionality is, SMART goals, the acronym of SMART, right? Being specific and measurable and attainable and,
100%.
and time oriented. Like, these have to be there. And so, to give you props with the Total Success Blueprint, right? That's what we use to write down our goals is your plan.
And with our staff.
And with with the team, because you have to have action steps for each goal. Again, just writing it down saying, I want to make X, or I want to have a better relationship with my spouse or my mom or whatever it is, that's just a wish unless you have action steps to make sure that you accomplish those goals. So everything that we've been talking about with goals that you're saying and that you teach in your coaching platform it's not rocket science. But if you just do it and you do it the right way, then you will be able to accomplish your goals.
And you have to schedule time. And this is the big piece. You have to schedule uninterrupted time to go through your goals, because you kind of get in the zone. You're not having the distractions. You're pushing those out, right? So you can truly have a really cool conversation with yourself. And once you start getting into it, and again, I love handwriting the goals because you're taking it from your head.
I do too.
Right?
Darren, I think it's a really big deal because most people don't. And I have one that's fillable fields too, but I always choose to print it. There's something, and there is a stats around that too, about if you actually write it out, the physicality of writing. So I totally agree with you. And Darren, when I was working with you on your goal plan, and I do love when you were talking about buying your home, because he always tells people, he goes, Cindy made me buy my second house.
That's right.
And I'm so glad we had that conversation, because that's another thing. When people start telling you things more than once, their vision and their dream, and that's what created that conversation for us to say, why are you not executing on that dream of owning a home in Arizona?
Right.
And obviously it's fear around money and the financial ability to maintain it and all those things that come up. And those are very real fears, right? But the reality is, look, we got one life and we got to make it count. And so that's one other thing I love about coaching is it sometimes just helps you make bolder choices than you would make on your own. It gives you the confidence to go, I'm a play big or go home person. Like if I'm going to go big. I don't know how else to do it. So I've made very bold choices in my life, and it's like live life and play full out. This is not a dress rehearsal. I want to make every day count, and I want to help other people live from that place. I want to live with no regret. I want to make sure I've got clean and healthy relationships. And it's just constantly that up-leveling of our life and educating ourselves. And I'm a consummate student. I learn from people every single day. So anyway, I get very excited about goals. Some people think it's a chore. I'm like, but it's our growth.
Yeah.
It's fun and exciting.
It is fun.
Yeah.
It is fun.
Like it's fun. And the thing that there's of so many things that we love about you, Cindy, is you're so gracious and you have a huge heart and you truly care about the friends and the people that you coach, because the people that you coach end up being your friends, because you can tell, just how passionate you are about, goal planning and help people, have success in their lives. And it's not just monetary. Like you said, you have to be, balanced in all these different aspects of your life in order to be a balanced person so you can achieve the goals and you're taking all your levels of success to the next level, right? So, man, we just want to thank you so much for coming from the heart. And hey, also,
you guys for having me.
We have nothing but love for Cindy Ertman. So for those who are listening, if someone is thinking about jumping into coaching, where can they go and find you and learn more?
CindyErtman.com. There is a button right at the top of the screen that says schedule a strategy call. So if you're looking to just think about different opportunities for coaching, you can go to CindyErtman.com and schedule a strategy call. We are, for people that are just starting out and not sure that they could afford private coaching or my high-level mastermind group, we have a program called Millionaire Mortgage Club. We did just put together a special to kick off the year. So we're kicking off 2023 with a top producer series. I'm going to kick it off with some of my best production strategies that got me to a whole nother level of success. And then I'm interviewing 6 of our top coaches and some of the top producers in the nation back to back to back, so I can pull out the gold from the tactical strategies that these amazing leaders are doing to continue to stay on the top of their game. Because I really want to give mortgage professionals just a really big kickstart to the year, because coming off 2022, people have been in a lot of pain. And that program we've knocked down to $597 for 3 months of coaching. It's 3 calls a month, 2 live trainings, and then I do an office hours call just to laser coach you on any personal challenges. Wow. And every one of these calls has Q&A, so you can ask direct questions of these leaders, figure out, talk about your own challenges so we can give you really, real big solutions to challenges you're facing right now. So, Dana, I'd love it to get them the link to that so we can offer that out to everybody as well, because we're just marketing that now. It's a really inexpensive way to get into our group program. And again, that information you can also find on CindyErtman.com, but that's called Millionaire Mortgage Club. And it's a great way to get kind of indoctrinated into our program for a very low price point. But we would love to serve, your community, your mortgage professionals for sure. And it's always so fun to be with you guys. And I feel very honored to be a guest on your podcast.
Awesome. Our pleasure. Awesome. We really appreciate it and always enjoy our time with you.
So many gold nuggets today, Cindy. So thank you so much. A lot of people are going to benefit from this.
Thanks so much, Darren. Thanks, Bobby. So good to be with you guys. Have a wonderful holiday.
Absolutely, guys. This has been the Always Be Cool podcast with Cindy Ertman. Phenomenal. We'll just say life and success coach. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Make sure to find us online on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. Make sure to leave a 5-star review, please, and also check us out on Instagram and Facebook. All right, guys.
See you soon, guys. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
If you are hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode. And for that, Darren and Bobby thank you from the bottom of their hearts.
They hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave them a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you're listening. Please share this episode with others who may be interested in our community.
Also, feel free to let DC and BK know which business or community leaders you'd like to see covered in future episodes. Get in touch in the comments or on social media. See you next time for a new episode. And remember, always be cool.
This podcast is powered by Summit Lending, NMLS number 1850081, Equal Housing Lender.